Name one billionaire from China. 1. The richest country for billionaires on Earth, and most people can't name a single face. That's not a coincidence, it's the deal they made. Because the man who was the most famous billionaire in China, the one everybody could name, stood on a stage, said the wrong sentence, and then, for 3 months, simply disappeared. This is the story of what it actually costs to be rich in China, and why the safest thing a Chinese billionaire can do is make sure you never learn his name. Start with the number, because the number is staggering. As of the 2026 Hurun Rich list, China has 1,110 billionaires. The United States, 1,000. For the first time, China is the billionaire capital of the world, adding 287 in a single year, nearly half of every new billionaire on the planet. And here's the engine room. More than 100 of those new fortunes came from a single industry, artificial intelligence, minted in just 1 year. In the West, that kind of money buys magazine covers, rockets, a seat next to the president. But in China, it buys you the opposite of all that, silence. The more you have, the less you are seen. And to understand why, you have to watch what happened to the one who forgot the rule. October 2020. Jack Ma is the most celebrated entrepreneur China has ever produced, the teacher who built Alibaba, the face of the new Chinese dream. And his company Ant Group is days away from the largest stock market debut in human history, roughly $35 billion. Then, at a summit in Shanghai, Ma gets comfortable. He calls China's financial regulators an old man's club. He says the banks operate with a pawn shop mentality. In any other country, a billionaire criticizing regulators is just background noise. But in China, the people he mocked are the same people who hand out permission to be rich, and you never, ever embarrass them in public. It wasn't a speech, it was a confession. Days before the IPO was set to price, the single biggest payday in the history of money, Beijing reached out and switched it off, suspended, the largest IPO ever, gone in a sentence. And then Jack Ma himself was gone. From early November, no speeches, no appearances, no posts. The most visible man in Chinese business evaporated from public life while the world asked the same quiet question, where is Jack Ma? For nearly 3 months. He resurfaced in January 2021 in a short video talking to rural teachers, smaller, softer, careful. 2 years later, the terms were made permanent. Ma had controlled more than 50% of Ant Group. He walked away with 6.2% of the voting rights. The richest man in China didn't lose his fortune to a market crash or a rival or a bad bet. He lost control because he was reminded in front of everyone who it actually belonged to. Picture the before and the after, because this is the part that should unsettle you. Before, Jack Ma on every magazine cover, dancing on stage at Alibaba's anniversary in a leather jacket and a wig, lecturing world leaders at Davos, the single most recognizable capitalist in Asia. After, a quiet man who turns up now and then in Tokyo, in Bangkok, in a classroom, never the markets, never the spotlight, same fortune on paper, a completely different man. That's what the off switch really does. It doesn't always take your money. Sometimes it takes the thing you'd miss far more, your voice. And then it lets you keep the fortune in plain sight as a warning to everyone still in the game. Because in China, a silenced billionaire is worth more than a ruined one. The danger isn't that they'll take what you built. It's that they can whenever they choose, and you'll never see it coming. And if you think Jack Ma was a one-off, a celebrity made into a lesson, look at the ones who weren't famous enough to be saved by attention. Ren Zhiqiang, a property tycoon nicknamed Big Cannon for his blunt tongue, wrote one essay critical of the leadership's pandemic response. Do you know what that sentence cost him? 18 years in prison, not for the words, of course. Officially, the charge was corruption, but the timing told the real story, and every billionaire in China heard it loud and clear. Bao Fan was the most powerful dealmaker in Chinese tech, the banker behind the deals everyone else needed. In February 2023, his own company announced it simply could not reach him. He had been taken into custody. He was held for more than 2 years and only released in 2025. These are not poor men or dissidents or criminals. They are some of the wealthiest people in the country, and each one is a data point in the same sentence. Here, the fortune is conditional. So, how do the smart ones survive? They pay. In 2021, after Xi Jinping named the wealth gap a political problem, China's biggest companies began what reporters called a loyalty competition. Tencent pledged $15.5 billion. Alibaba, the same. Pinduoduo, Temu's parent company, handed over an entire quarter's profit, and the timing wasn't subtle. That same wave of crackdowns erased close to $1 trillion in market value from China's tech giants in a single year, and then the donations rolled in. On paper, charity. In practice, an invoice. The donation is the premium on an insurance policy that protects you from the state, paid to the state. It is the cost of being allowed to stay rich, and it buys you the one thing that actually matters in China: permission to keep going, quietly, invisibly, exactly as instructed. Which brings us to the richest man in China, a name you almost certainly don't know. Zhong Shanshan. He sells bottled water. He's worth around $74 billion, and yet on the global list, he ranks all the way down at number 26. Sit with that for a second, because it should not be possible. The single richest person in the country with more billionaires than anywhere on earth is barely a household name, even at home, and that is exactly how he wants it. In China, that isn't failure, that's mastery. Invisibility isn't the absence of power, it's the armor of it. But the irony cuts deeper. America tried to choke China's tech with sanctions. In late 2025, Beijing's answer was to order its state data centers to stop buying foreign chips altogether, handing its own approved companies a captive, guaranteed market. The cage, it turns out, has a roof and a floor, and here's the part that should unsettle you most. It isn't loosening, it's getting more systematic. Watch the pattern tighten in real time. 2020, they make an example of the most famous billionaire alive. 2021, they invoice the entire tech industry under the banner of common prosperity. 2023, they detain the dealmaker who quietly connected all of it. And then, in February 2025, something quieter and far more telling. Xi Jinping called the founders in. The heads of Huawei, of BYD, of Xiaomi, the men building China's future, summoned to a room to sit and listen. The first gathering of its kind in years. Think about what that image actually means. In the West, the billionaires summon the president to a dinner, to an inauguration, to a donor call. In China, the president summons the billionaires, and they come, every one of them. This is the thing to understand. It is no longer a crackdown. A crackdown is an event. It starts, it ends, you recover. But this doesn't end. This is the operating system. The permission has to be renewed again and again, and the day you stop, you lose everything. So here is what all of it actually means. In the West, we believe money is freedom, that enough of it makes you untouchable. China runs on the opposite law. There, wealth is not ownership, it is a license, and a license can be revoked. The richest men in China are, in the way that counts most, the least free people in the country, because everything they have, they hold at someone else's pleasure. It's easy to watch this from the outside and feel safe. Don't. Because the off switch isn't a Chinese invention. It's a technology, the ability of a power you didn't elect to reach into a fortune, a platform, an account, a life, and turn it off. And it is being built everywhere. The question was never, why can't you name a Chinese billionaire? The question is, who holds the switch over you? So watch the next video, because the hidden systems that decide who keeps what are already being built right where you live.